Any updates on the mineral experiment?
We sort of have an update. Yeah. So from I'm just trying to figure out how I want to say this.
Yeah.
So for those who are not familiar with the different mineral experiment, I'll give a very quick overview. We were under the impression that we were having some issues potentially with our free choice program. Some issues potentially with under mineralization of the animals, maybe some cadmium toxicity as well. We will once this experiment is fully flushed out, which will be probably towards the end of our time being here, we will do a live stream dedicated towards the mineral experiment, the great mineral experiment, and we will go into depth about why this all makes sense and what happened. Anyway, the short version though, which is not really short, is the free choice we thought we were having some issues with. We still had mothers that weren't taking their calves. We had some problems with pink eye last year. We were noticing that there's potentially some cadmium toxicity in some of the older cows. And so it was sort of all leading us down the road of thinking that maybe this free choice, they were getting most of what they needed, but not all of it. And so we decided, okay, let's do a little experiment with some information that we learned from our seminar with Steve Campbell.
Right here, actually.
And basically to get more mineral into the cattle, what we've been doing for the past, basically since right before calving season in March, we started them on this specific sort of kind of salt that's a lot less processed, so there's a lot more minerals in the sea salt itself. And then we started using a pre-mixed mineral that's not sourced from China, so it doesn't have any of that cadmium in it. And we would mix those two together in a 2-to-1 ratio, like two 50-pound bags of this special salt and one 50-pound bag of this premixed mineral, mix that together, and then put about 50 pounds of that mix into a feed trough, and then maybe four or at this point like 2 gallons of this raw whole apple cider vinegar as an attractant to get them to consume more of the mineral and more of the salt. The theory is by consuming more of the salt and more of the mineral, we're going to up their mineral intake. We're going to reduce that cadmium, which with the cadmium toxicity, you wouldn't necessarily see those results until a lot later, but that's another conversation. Really what we're looking for is less abandonment of calves by mothers, because that's a potential mineral issue, less pink eye. We haven't flushed that out yet. And just healthier animals in general, sort of working on that, increasing that positive epigenetic situation with those animals. We have run into the problem so far, and this is part of the reason why Chewing the Cud has been inconsistent, is we've had a lot of mothers in comparison to last year have troubles with their calves, meaning either abandoning them, not taking them initially and then taking them, some other issues. And so the other day we basically sat down with Greg and we were like, there's got to be something that's different here, because the weather's basically 100% the same. I mean, very comparable to last year. There's really nothing that's different other than what we did with that mineral. And we kept their free choice in there, but what started to happen was they almost stopped consumption on the free choice because they developed that taste for the vinegar and they were eating that mineral at high levels. And so we came to the conclusion that they're probably overeating on that salt and not getting some of the minerals that they are used to. For years and years and years, Greg's been using free choice. And so those mothers are just used to getting that kind of mineral. And so it's detrimentally affecting them. I'm not saying that Steve Campbell stuff is necessarily wrong, because we haven't finished this whole conversation yet, or experiment, I should say. But based on what we're seeing now, we decided we're just going to flip back to free choice to get calving out of the way. And then maybe later in the season, when most of the calves are done, we'll reintroduce that mineral program and see if we see some improved results. The bulls are still on it right now, and we haven't noticed any issues with the bulls, but we're not in pink eye season yet, so we'll see how that goes. But that's sort of a little update on the situation. That's what it is. It's an experiment. We're trying out some new things. We'll report to you guys as we sort of learn more, but at this point, I think the jury's still out. We're not 100% sold on this new mineral program, and part of that might be just because Greg's animals aren't used to it yet. We did give them enough of a runway into the calving season.
And we introduced it in a poor time, before calving.
But the theory was it would help calving. Like if we could up their mineral intake right before calving, we were going to be a lot better off. And it turns out, it seems our anecdotal evidence, observational evidence seems to be in contradiction to that. It seems that they're actually lacking some mineral. And that could be our fault in the way that we're administering it. It could be just Craig's animals are not used to it.
It could be a
number of reasons. But the correlation is the only thing we changed was the mineral program, and we're seeing a massive increase in calving issues this year. And so we're turning it on its head. We're going back to free choice for the rest of calving season. And their intake has already skyrocketed on the free choice. So we'll see. Maybe it's too little too late and it won't make much of a difference because we already did the damage early on with not giving them what they needed. But
the thing is, they had the free choice, which you already talked about.
Yeah, they had the free choice, but I think really what it was is the attractant. They were overeating on that salt, so they didn't feel the need to eat the mineral, even though they actually did need it. They were like, "Oh, I've got too much salt, don't need it anymore." But they really did need it. So anyway, update again. We will do an in-depth. That's the overview version. There's a whole episode's worth of information once this thing is all said and done, and we won't see the full results of this because it's going to be a multi-year process to be able to fully flesh it out. But end of the year, I promise, we will do a full episode devoted to the mineral experiment, the great mineral experiment. So